is the Diary of a Lady Band Director podcast, brought to you by the Passion Is Network.
Hey. Back again. We got Leah's gonna come on a little bit later, hopefully, and Lauren has some technical difficulties. But I would like to say welcome to the Diary of a Lady Band Director podcast number 7. We are 7 in, ladies. I know the time is flown. Yeah, let's give a church clap, church clap, church clap. Well, one, thank you for being here today. You know, I'm sure that this is a special day and you have had plans, you've rearranged your lives. If you're joining us today, thank you for tuning in on Mother's Day. And I'd like to start a little icebreaker, little shout out time. So, ladies, if you would like to shout out a special mother or mother figure in your life, you have the space to do it. I'll go last.
Well, I'll go ahead and go. She might even be watching, but my mother, of course, happy Mother's Day to her. I had some flowers and balloons delivered to her, and then some chocolate covered strawberries just came just now. They were late. And she said, "Did you get me something?" I said, "I guess so." Anyway, I wanted to say happy Mother's Day to her and happy Mother's Day to Honey. You know, Honey had 3 litters, so she's got 26 puppies. So happy Mother's Day to her.
Oh, I want a dog. You got to tell me stuff like that. I'm trying to get a dog in this house, but my husband's not a dog person.
Oh, man.
He's a cat person. And we know
what?
Yeah, cat people are only cat people. Dog people can like cats. Cat people generally don't like dogs. Go figure. Well, what about you, Miss Davis? Shout out somebody special, some mother, your mother, grandmother.
Well, yeah, I'll give a shout out to my mom who's sitting right here. She's sitting right here with me. So I've already enjoyed the day. I think this is like our first Mother's Day together in probably 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I moved, from the state of Louisiana about that long ago. So, yeah, we enjoyed the day. And I just want to shout out Janae Martinez, if she's watching, because she usually tunes in. And I know she's a mother, and her son is just starting beginning band. So, yeah, she was telling me about that. And, all the mothers out there that are just doing an awesome, amazing job. And Mother's Day to you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. My mother has departed this world. My mother, she passed away when I was 11. So same age as my son is now. And she died from complications of the AIDS virus. Back when, they didn't even have a treatment. It was just a death sentence. And I lost my grandmother in 2011. So my mother figures and my aunts. My mother had 6 sisters, and they all kind of have a different role in the mother figure. So I guess I got 6 moms. And then of course, like the ones that seed into us the most, not my band director, but my husband's band director. She's kind of motherly over me, and she checks in with me, and she kind of has filled in that space as well, which is really cool because it's kind of like I have a band mom. So that's the cool thing about having people who fill in even in the absence of. So shout out to those people, shout out to those ladies, to my aunts, shout out to Patricia Hopkins, a band mom, and of course shout out to anybody viewing and anybody whose mothers are here or no longer here, and they have people who fill in. And of course the lady band directors, our kids tend to look at us like we mom. They sometimes call us mom. We like, no, I ain't your mom, but okay. But it's a term of endearment, so we gonna get it started. Again, Cybil with the bangers. Cybil always with the topics that are the bangers. We gotta have an acronym for you because you always pick them. So this topic comes up a lot, but this is gonna be a little bit from my perspective. So the first question I'm posing to the panel is, what should be the standard for developing a good band program in elementary, middle, high school, and or college?
Well, I'll speak for elementary because I mean, you guys may want to speak on the other levels, but for elementary, I really think that steady beat is so very, so very, so very, so much more important than people think it is when they get to us. Like that has got to be taught, as well as I would say basic note reading, and getting that recorder. I think all of that should happen in elementary school for everybody, regardless of whether they are going to be in band in middle school or not, because it sets them up for that success. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thought on elementary.
I have to agree. Pitch and rhythm, period. Accuracy of pitch, accuracy of rhythm. We want to try to get those expressive devices in, but really, we just trying to get the babies to be on beat and on pitch. And that's become a little more difficult. I'm seeing some deficits in that area, which is why this is a banger topic. But I absolutely agree. I would add to that self-management. Like as a band director, like if you have elementary school, and I've taught fifth and sixth grade band before, and up here, sixth grade could be in middle school and it could be in elementary school. But self-management, because often it depends on where you are, they might not have ever had a class where they had to work together in that type of environment. And they're still very young and they're in the preteen age and developing, and just teaching them how to manage themselves in that type of space. I think it's really important to have routines and procedures that are solid at that age, because what they learn, I think, in band at that stage is going to go to the next stage, which is middle school. And if they used to the Wild Animal Kingdom band class, they're going to bring that Wild Animal Kingdom to middle school. That's my opinion. So pitch, rhythm, and self-management, routines, and procedures. That's what it's all about at elementary school. What about you, Ms. Davis?
I was gonna mention, because y'all talked about steady beat, but because this is my first year teaching elementary school, and you would be so surprised. I'd be like, "Hey, keep a steady beat." Like that's the whole little song that we work on, because that is something that they do struggle with. I didn't realize that, because teaching middle school and high school band, you just think they're having problems just tapping their foot, and it's that. But yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because it makes me know I'm doing the right thing with mine, because I did start them on recorders this year. And we've been working on steady beat all year. I feel kind of bad though, because sometimes I tend to shift a little. I favor the instruments a little more than I do the singing. And so with the third graders, I do try to sing a little bit with them, because I don't do too much with instruments with the third grade, other than the shaker egg, and I let them do bucket drum and tambourine. That's
What you need steady beat for.
Yes. That's why we put them up, and I gave them shaker eggs. I was like, here, take this. But no, I was gonna say with the middle school, because they come to me with no experience. For high school, I try to make sure that they know how to produce a characteristic sound. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that they know how to read the fingering chart and can read the rhythms, because if I can get them to do that in middle school, then once they get to high school, they can start developing the other stuff, like the, dynamics, that kind. I mean, we do play with the dynamics in middle school, but when you get to high school, it's like another level. You can push them a little further than the basic stuff that we're supposed to do at the middle school. And then when I was in high school, one thing I did want to make sure that they could read any kind of rhythm, because I didn't want them to go to anyone's college or transfer to someone else's school and they say, well, who was your band director? And I always tell my students that. I was like, you can't leave me not knowing what you're supposed to know, because you're going to tell somebody I taught you that, and I don't want to teach you wrong. So just making sure that with the high school, that they were familiar with scales, that they were familiar with major and minor scales, that they could read 16 note rhythms. Then we played. I made sure that with my high school, we played at least 3 marches, because I knew I could get, give them something that'll get them musically ready for if they were ready to go on to college. And with the same thing with middle school, I just make sure that they can play, I think it's like the first 5 scales that we do with middle school. I know in Georgia, we have the standard. It's a certain number. I think it's 4, but I made sure they knew those 4. And I did introduce them to minor scales. But other states, they expect them to know a lot more than that. But I just made sure they knew the B flat concert, the F concert scale. And then I really would take the fingering chart and make them learn that, because that's how I learned. I learned my instrument. I was like, I need to learn all the notes. So I just memorized the fingering chart, and I didn't realize, knowing the fingering chart, I knew every note. Even if I couldn't read the note, I was like, I know what is that, but I know the fingering, So I try to teach my students, play the fingering chart from the first note to the last note. So there's never a note that you don't know how to play. You may not recognize it when you see it, but at least if I tell you, hey, that's A above the staff, like, oh yeah, I know that finger. So that was my standard, to make sure that they knew their fingerings and they could read rhythms, and know how to produce a quality sound. Because that was important as well.
I'm gonna say I agree, especially with that fingering chart, because that is exactly how I learned how to play full range on my instrument. And by the time I got to Pratt, I had Pratt, I had Roosevelt Pratt. We just memorized the fingering chart, and there was no issue of how do you, that question burned me up from kids. How do you play this note? How do you play this note? How do you do this? I'm like, that it just starts that self-efficacy. Like, if you can read the fingering chart, you can read the rhythms. That takes a lot of the weight out of the class time, because now we can talk about making sure you're accurate with what you're doing. But we can't do that if you in the middle of rehearsal or class every 5 minutes, hey, and then you look like you throwing gang signs up to children to try to get them, like, in the middle of the song. You're like I used to find myself when I taught middle school, like, be natural. And you're like in the middle of the song, it's distracting. So I completely agree. Like, on that middle school, Daddy, they gotta have some self-efficacy. That's what I feel like. You're like, that's those things where I cannot teach you, or I shouldn't teach you every single thing. I should maybe teach you how to use your resources. So maybe using your resources is like one of those big standards. Like, don't ask me stuff that you can find with that smartphone. That's always mine. Your face in it. You got your face planted in it. Use it, damn it. Don't ask me, download that app. There's an app for everything. So I absolutely agree. That should be a standard, is, that fingering chart, boy, and rudiments. Don't leave the percussion out. They should be able to play. If, the band got to know 5 scales, the percussion should know 5 rudiments. Like, that seems fair, or 10.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the rudiments. Yeah, because I tell my percussionists, I said, when you go, because I didn't really have many classical percussionists. So the kids that I did have, they were going to the HBCUs or the drum corps, drum lines. And I said, they're going to yell out rudiments. Y'all got to know them. And so, yeah, and I would tell them, the percussionists, your rudiments are to you like our scales are to us, the instrumentalists. So you got to learn your rudiments as well. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. We got to get those rudiments. But they always made it fun for the kids that did those rudiments. We would make a contest out of it.
You put that little star chart up, that little achievement chart. Look, you got all these scales. Pizza party. I don't know. What about you, Cybil?
I was gonna say some of the other things that I thought should be standard in a middle school program is being assessed, going out MPAs, things like that, or just even if it's somebody other than the actual director, being in front of them and conducting and giving feedback from another ear. Like I think as young as middle school, they should have that opportunity as well. So that was one thing with the middle school, and introduced to concert literature. They start actually playing pieces there, but not going away from the book. I know sometimes we just throw the method book away and just go straight to concert, but it's like we have to find a balance. So I think both of those should be implemented, but should both be, a daily thing.
Yeah, I agree. That book, like in Maryland, in the district I teach now, not Baltimore City, because I'm not with Baltimore City schools anymore, but in Prince George's County, they don't even want you working on literature during the school day for elementary band, middle school band. They want you in the method book and they want you to finish it. Like they don't want you to skip pages. They want you to go from A to Z, which I'm a product of Prince George's County schools. When I got to college, reading music was not an issue. It was not, they put anything in front of me. I didn't need assistance. And I remember kind of being, next to people. I'm like, you struggling with this? Like, because my whole world came from being around people who kind of had that type of, that standard, and that's what we're talking about, that standard. On the high school level, it's tricky now, like what the standard is, because the state standards, and there's a question about the state standards we'll get to next, but it's tricky if you're in an area where the arts have been cut down to its bare bones. Unlike Prince George's County, where I am now in Baltimore City, 90% of my students, and this is common in the city, this is not the exception to the rule, this is actually more of the rule. A lot of times, the first time they've had a formal music class is high school. So I can't start with grade 3 music. Like I can't. I have to buy grade 1 and push for 2 by December and really pray about that 3 if I'm going to take them to MPAs, which I always did. But it was like not fair. I just kind of felt like this isn't fair. Like I can't take them on a 2 and qualify. I have to take them on a 3. And this baby just learned how to put air in the instrument and what hole to blow in and how to read music at the same time. I just always felt abusive. They would rise to that standard, most of my kids. But it felt abusive. I was like, this ain't right. And, just to be honest, I got tired of feeling like that. So, I left, I dipped and tried to leave them in capable hands. But standard in high school, I think if your state has an MPA, you should be going. And I know, speaking from experience, it can be very intimidating to go. Hey, I got to pause. Hey, Lauren, she got in. You got in.
Finally, yes.
Where is Diego? That's all I care about. Where is the dog?
He's here. He's right behind me. He's chilling.
Well, we talking about what makes a good program, and we're kind of on the high school point right now. What qualifications should go into making a good program? Elementary, middle, high school, college. But I was just saying, like in Baltimore City, and you're a product of Baltimore County schools, and it was drastically different. I just did the best I could and jam-pack as many foundational skills in a little bit of time. The great thing is older kids learn quicker, but they're still a beginner. Like you're still a beginner. So my standard had to kind of match the environment and pray that when people listen to them, they're listening with the ear, like this is a 6-month player who's 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old. Like, don't judge me about phrasing. They still working on what those elementary school standards or whatever. What do y'all think about college? What should the standard be? Or what standards do you think should be on the college level? Cybil shaking her head. That's how you feel, sis. Dang, not on the Mother's Day. She like,
I just know that there are some high school programs that are comprehensive, that have lots of things going on, lots of different ensembles, and then those kids go to university thinking some programs will be the same way, and it's nothing. Like it's maybe one or two ensembles, and they lose love. But that's not the high school level's fault for having all of that stuff. They're setting them up for success. So I think, well, yeah, that's what I think.
Well, you just came. Ms. Davis, you unmuted. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I've never taught at college, but I do wish that they would emphasize to future music educators the importance of what needs to go into their band programs, because a lot of those kids graduate and they want their band to be like their college band, and I'm like, no, that's not supposed to be happening, so that's where I wish they would and like Cybil was saying, they don't have those same opportunities to grow further than their high school has taken them. And I think, if, because kids are going to want to go where they want to go, and they want to, the schools that have the great music programs aren't the schools that they usually see, a lot of. And so the schools that they do see, I think they have to change the narrative of what kind of things they're addressing in those classes with those students that want to be band directors or chorus teachers or music educators, flat out. That's what they need to address. Because I will say, when I graduated, and I always thought I was missing something because I didn't student teach. I didn't want to teach. I graduated with a performance degree, and it just, it just happened that way. A guy just took, he was like, she ain't paying attention. I'm finna do this for her, and that he just led me that way. But I always felt like I was missing something because I didn't get to student teach. And then I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, how you do that? We didn't talk about that. Oh, I got to do this. We never addressed that. And so I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much that they need to know before they come into the classroom. And that's what I hope to do in the future. I would like to teach future music educators on that level, like just get them ready for the classroom, how to fill out field trip requests, do a bulletin board, how to write a lesson plan. Because I know we talked about that, and because I did take some education classes, but we never went to that extent, like using your state standards. We didn't do any of that, so I kind of had to learn as I went, as I became on through and got a more experience and became a more experienced educator. So I try my best to help those that I do know, like the students I have. And even if they're not my students, I always try to, just give them little tidbits, because that's the little stuff, those are the things that they don't talk about in college. And then you're like, whoa, they need a whole class on, especially for our young men, how to, keep your boundaries. Because I have to talk to my young co-workers about that. Hey, that little girl too close. She should not be within our arm's reach, because it doesn't. And I know these things, but they don't get it. And I'm like, oh my God,
Miss Davis.
Oh, if I may jump in.
So hold on for a second, because we're already on question 7. So here's what question 7 is. Are current standards and music teacher prep programs of our HBCUs doing a good job with preparing future music educators for a 21st century classroom? Are HBCUs getting it done? Okay, so I felt like we were pushing that. No, good job, Ms. Davis. because he was pushing us down. I was like, oh, here comes, he's getting spicy.
I've wanted to table that topic because that seems like the topic of the week in the band world right now. So I'm an arts management major at American University, and I recently hosted a panel on how arts educators are also arts managers. What colleges and music departments, music schools, they need to teach their future music educators that not only are they just educators, they're not like math teachers or English teachers where, everything is provided to them by the school and by the district, but they also need to learn the business aspect of their program. They need to learn how to balance a checkbook. They need to learn how to fundraise. They need to learn how to work with community partners if their district allows them, because there are some districts that they don't allow donations to come in, or it's a certain criteria for donations to come in. How to talk to community leaders to promote their band programs so they can get the funding for their programs. Because a lot of times, I'm sorry, I have a piece of gum in my mouth. In my experience, I've seen people, they're starting bands from the ground up. They don't inherit a lot of good band programs unless they're very good at what they do. And, I've had one of my panelists, uh, Mr. Mr. Walter Harley, he's the band director at Oxon Hill High School. He said he turned his band boosters into a 501c3. They turned them into a nonprofit so they can get the donations and write grants and get all those things. So I was originally a music education major, but like Anshella, I went to music performance, and they don't teach us the business aspect of it at all. There was also something else I wanted to say, not related to the business aspect, but the aspect of like auditioning for colleges from from high school, and the fact that, in HBCU world, we always say contact the band director, just call the band director. And the high school band directors tell us this, and also the music departments, they push the band directors on the band students, because really the music departments don't want nothing. They don't want nothing to do with the band students. That's all the band director's job. When really you're supposed to, if you're going to be a music major, you're supposed to contact the private lesson instructor. You're supposed to contact them because you're going to be working under them. For that's your concert. Your instrument is your concentration, as well as education or performance or whatever. Your instrument is still your concentration. So we need to teach our students to contact the private lesson instructor, find out who they are, do some research, what ensembles they played for, what schools they graduated from, what organizations they're part of, to see if that person aligns with you. Because, I went to college. I met the band director first. Now, I will say, for one of the schools I auditioned with, Howard University, they got it right. When my band director took me to my audition for Howard University, I didn't even see Newsom. It was John Newsom at the time. I didn't even see Newsom. It was a clarinet instructor, in which, in my mind, I thought it was weird then. But now that I'm also studying clarinet, now that I know these things, you're supposed to see them first. They always push the band directors on these students, and these high school directors always say, yeah, call this band director, they'll get you right. But really, we need to include the private lesson instructors in this process, so they'll know they'll know what to audition for. Because a private lesson instructor, you can have a small 30-minute lesson with them, a free lesson, and they'll tell you exactly, okay, you need to play this, you need to play that, you need to play these scales, you have to play this etude. They'll tell you exactly what you need to audition for. People aren't withholding that information. It's just that we're not seeking that information. So that's one thing that we need to teach in 21st century in the classroom, in high school and college, and to better prepare our high school students for college, and to better prepare our college students to be good music educators.
I agree. It's that gap, that bridging the gap, because I talk about being a music major all the time. I was in shock. Like, I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? That's how I felt, because I didn't really know what it was going to take to be a music major. And my concentration is music education. I didn't know that I was going to have to take all that theory, music history, ear training. I'd never heard of such things. And it was a little overwhelming the first year, because it's like, I thought I was just going to come in and play my clarinet and like band all day. Like and that is kind of how some of our high schools set our kids up to think that it's all about the ensemble. If you're going to major in music, it's not even, that's just a drop in the bucket. The ensemble is usually a lab credit, like a 1 credit, barely. You spend the most time in the lab class. It's a lab, but ultimately you're not graduating without passing music theory, ear training, piano, your pedagogy classes, and then some cases the praxis, which, this kind of came from Uncut, because a lot of people were really talking about this question right here. People talking about they didn't feel prepared. They don't feel like colleges or our HBCUs did anything to help them get into the career field and prepare them to be successful. And ultimately that will affect your band program. You can think, the general masses can think that cranking up all day is all you do as a music teacher. But when it's evaluation time and you won't get paid, or they won't renew your contract because you can't write a lesson plan, you don't know what state standards are. You never even heard the word, like some of y'all said. You just didn't know. And you graduate from college with this degree. You spent, 40,000 clock hours for this lab class, and you can't even get a damn job. You can't even, or you can only be hired as a contractor because you're not certified, and you can only be hired as a 0.5 or a coach position, where someone like me almost at 6 figures and I just hit 40. And I'm looking at y'all like, yeah, that's great. But when it comes evaluation time, I know how to pull them standards out and prove that the kids are actually retaining that information. So I don't think we're doing a good job at our HBCUs, not across the board. There's certainly schools that's doing better than other schools, but I have noticed a trend when I get asked to do a seminar or new educators reach out to me. I notice abundance more of certain schools than other schools. I'm gonna throw it out there. Nobody from Bethune-Cookman has ever called to ask me for help with anything related to music education. And I know quite a few people from Cookman. To me, that says something. That says that when they leave, they ready. When they leave, they understand all of those elements, and they're not in trouble or on a conditional certificate trying to get off. Or, God bless Dr. Brock. She has a business off of it because it's a high need, getting people past that praxis. And if you spend all these clock hours on that lab class, which is important, but you wasn't hitting that study daddy on that music theory, and you wasn't hitting, I'm gonna use the word, and your ear ain't trained, or your knowledge of repertoire is one. If you ain't digging into repertoire that's on your state list, and people can say that it's outdated or not, I argue that. Rick said it on Talk That Talk. There are some dope wind ensemble composers where the song isn't even really classical. Like, if you peel back all the layers, it's jazz in it, it's gospel in it, it's hip hop in it. You got people like Marie Douglas basically writing trap music for band, and it's hot, and it still has skills in it. So we're not doing a good job. That's my little bit of a rant. We're not. Too many people aren't certified. Too many people can't keep their jobs, and that's not fair to them, because they invested in their schools and they didn't get a full return. That's what I got.
I was gonna add as far as like the marching band component of the collegiate level, because it is a university band. I do think that every student in the band, whether they're a music major or not, should be some kind of way funded at least a half hour lesson once a week, as long as they're in an ensemble. You know,
That's
I
a
mean,
whole
why
nother.
have just all the music majors sounding good and everybody else sounding like trash and you mix them together? You know what I'm saying?
You in tune and you can play Shostakovich and you can't even get through, 4 good scales. That's gonna make the whole ensemble, even for the director on a collegiate level, that's gonna affect your product, because those music majors or those people who are getting that extra benefit are carrying that weight. They're carrying that weight. I'm gonna say something. I noticed a big difference in Norfolk State when they had an influx of music majors. I want to say it was about 2001. They had something up to 30 studying trumpet majors. That changed the game for them. Like it was just different. You can't nobody say that they didn't all of a sudden sound different, and you can't say that the band director changed, because it didn't. They ended up with a different level of musician, and that kind of affected the product. And that also reflected the studio.
What year was that?
2001,
One.
like 01, 02, they all of a sudden kind of had this explosion. But talking to some people there, they had a lot of music majors.
Because I was gonna say, one of my mentors. Well, he was my trumpet mentor, Tim Zachary.
Mhm.
He was teaching at Norfolk State at one time. So I wonder if maybe he had something to do with that, because he is a phenomenal trumpet player. And I used to play with him. But then he left, went to the Navy. And then when I did realize he was, back in the States, he was at Norfolk. And so when you said that, it just made me think about Dr. Zachary. Because I know he was teaching there at some time at Norfolk.
Mr. Morris said, I know non-music majors that can outplay the majors.
Yeah.
I do too.
Something that happened.
I wanted to
my husband was a
respond to what
non-music major,
Cybil.
and he was killing the whole trombone section at one time by himself, or going toe to toe. And then he changed his major like in year 4, because he was almost pretty much a music major quality. But he also took lessons as a non-music major.
Right.
They allowed that at Morgan
See,
for years. They don't allow it anymore, but for years they allowed non-music majors to take as many lessons, like no cap, if you wanted to take lessons every year. And it was an expectation. If you were getting scholarship money, you were in applied lessons.
to respond what Cybil said, it actually helps the instrument studios out, because I'm tired of seeing HBCUs with like studios of like 2 clarinet players, maybe 3 trumpets, and barely a low brass studio depending on the school. I'm just speaking for myself. I went to North Carolina Central, so I don't like seeing that. It helps the studio out if non-majors took private lessons. And Sybil, you're right. You're right. Like all the music majors, they're carrying the entire band, while the non-majors, the band is made of music majors, and it's anybody that wants to be in the band. But it would help the band out so much if everybody got private lessons. Sectionals is not going to do it. Section leaders, they can only do so much. So having that one-to-one interaction with somebody who studied the instrument can help the students, be better musicians. They'll become better overall people. Even though music is not their major, they'll become better overall people. Also, going back to the expectations of being a music major, I know quite a few people who I didn't know were music majors. They started out in college as music majors because they didn't know the expectations of it. Like you said, Krystal, and what everybody else said, they expect to be in an ensemble. Like, oh, I can play. I like doing this. So I'll be a music major, not knowing, what it all entails. I didn't know what it all entailed. I mean, I survived through it, and I'm surviving again, but I'm going through it, and I love it. I ended up liking it, but for a lot of people, you have to. I think high school band directors, they really need to start their kids on theory. If they know somebody wants to be a music major, they really need to really need to sit down and talk to them and tell them all the things they have to do as a music major. And I think the biggest misconception is being a music major is the easiest major in the world. It's actually one of the hardest, if not the hardest, part because of ignorance. At its simplest form is just ignorance, and ignorance doesn't mean stupidity. It just means people do not know. They know what to expect out of a chemistry major, biology major. They're two different types of sciences, and people know this, but they don't know, that there are different types of areas of music they can go into, music industry, management. They could go be a performer, whether it be in jazz or behind Beyonce or any hip hop or R&B artist. It's just music. That's it. And there's no, I guess, was it specificity? There's no, yeah. It's like there's nothing special about each section. It's just music, and that's it. And we have to get out of that mind frame and show the students all of their options within the concentration of music, the field of music.
Yeah, and with the options, I think as the educators or the professors should help the student understand which one they really should be going down. It's nothing wrong with either major, but oftentimes you get a lot of performance majors that go straight that route, and they may feel like they're gonna make it out there, and they don't, and they're making it, paycheck to paycheck or however. Whereas if you had the education to do during the day and then get during the night, you're making extra. So I just think as educators, we should kind of, like Lauren said, give them that whole scope, the pros and cons of each track. Which one would you be most financially successful? Which one is going to take you the farthest? Which two can you do at the same time and live, instead of just, do this because it pays me, that you're here.
Yeah. I was going to mention that too, Cybil, because if the high school band director is talking about these things in the rehearsal setting, then those kids would already know, you talk with arpeggios, thirds, fifths, or the seventh. How do we tune? So sometimes if they're coming from a and I know one of the questions we're talking about comprehensive band programs, but it doesn't really need to be a comprehensive. If they have a band director that's doing that stuff with them on the high school level, then they'll already know what it is. And so I think the kids that go into college with that ignorance are the ones that have those band directors that are trying to say,
here we go.
trying to say it, that's all they know. And so that is, to me, I think the band director has failed those students if they haven't, explained it to them.
And to tag on to that, they're failing their students, and those students are essentially going to grow, get out, and then fail another generation of students. And that's how we get here. Like that cycle kind of one begots the next. It's like the Bible. It's like numbers. It's like, who's your band director? Who was their band director? Oh, yeah. And we all know, like when we was in college, or if you were in high school, if they said a certain school name, we watch our band director eye twitch a little bit. But because they already know what that product is, and they already know that kids gonna have deficits, and they just already know on a collegiate level as far as teacher prep programs. And this is controversial. I'm for young directors. I'm for fresh blood, because I think you could get stale. You could get stale and old and antiquated in anything, inclusive of band directoring. So you can get to college and be there so long that you don't know how to be relevant to the butts in the seat, and you don't check up on new practices. You was a teacher. If you, and this is, I'm be careful, but I'm not. If you did not teach in a public school setting, you need to spend extra time as a college band director being in the public school setting, even if it's as a guest, going to the same clinics, the state conferences. The college band directors, I don't see them at state conferences, and I know because I be at them. I don't see them there. They feel like it's not relevant, but oh my God, it is, because you might have gotten your degree in music education before the practice existed. So you ain't never have to take it. You don't know what it is, or it was called something else. And so now you have these music majors. You're supposed to be prepping for the 21st century classroom, but you don't know what that 21st century classroom look like. You just telling them, you go, and they go out with bright and shiny eyes. I'm going to just crank up, or I'm going to have this wind ensemble of 3,000 kids, and like unrealistic, because the person who taught them wasn't in a realistic setting. They've been in college so long that they just don't know what it takes to be a good band director on any level below college. And sometimes they're not a good band director in college anymore because of those deficits. So if the college band director doesn't even know what it takes to pass the test, I really believe that that's why we have a lot of young directors struggling through praxis, struggling to build a program, struggling because they got into the real world and it smacked them. And that leads me to this next question about the standards. Do you think district, state, and national music standards are not being focused on enough in the public school setting? Do you think they're not being focused on enough, or are they being focused on too much?
I was gonna say I believe it depends on where they are, because some districts don't they don't require band directors to take their groups to the state festivals, and some districts do. Like, it's like, this is part of your job. You have to take your group to evaluation, and if you don't score well, then we'll replace you. I mean, some districts are just that strict. So I think it has a lot to do with where they are, as far as where they are working, and what the district, like the school district, like what are their requirements for that music program. Because I've been in districts where I didn't have to take my group, but I knew better, so I took my group anyway. They didn't make me take my group. But then I get to a different district and they're like, oh, you have to take your group. I'm like, okay, I'm used to that. But I really think, and it, because if you're in a district and they don't make you go, some people choose to not go. So that's what I think about that part. I think it has to do with where you are and what their requirements are in that district.
Those are the areas that hold on, let me collect my thoughts. The standards. Yeah, kudos to having administration that understand that, because all administrations don't, and I'm not saying ours don't, they do. But when administration doesn't understand that, or doesn't care to read through to see what the expectations are for performing arts, they just, if you go, you go. If you don't, you don't, type of thing. So it's always good to have somebody who does know. As far as the standards, I can only speak for in our classroom that we do use them. But what I will say about our standards is that there are things that I believe are not on there that I teach, and I feel like that should be included. It's kind of restricted with our curriculum, and I don't know if that's because maybe it's older, or they didn't take deep thought into certain aspects, or didn't know that there's so many multi aspects within music. But that's what I think about the standards.
So my master's degree is in curriculum and instruction. the second one. And I chose that route because my first year teaching, I the curriculum was trash. Like it was a draft form. It had been updated in maybe 20 years or something. I mean, it was just trash. It was hard to follow. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for the deficits that the district had been experiencing something 20 plus years. So I was like, if I need to move my kids to a grade 3 music, what do I need to do? They're in or middle school. My kids have not had a formal general music class. So you telling me that we need to be playing a B flat scale this quarter, they can't even clap on beat. I still got kids that don't know their left from their right. And that's how serious it was, because if you don't have PE, you don't have those extra classes, those classes that fine tune motor skills. It was like kindergarten with 12-year-olds. Kindergarten. All right, sit on, stand up, twist to the left, twist to the right. Like it was really a general music class with instruments, because the standards, I could not teach them, not in fidelity. I had to really go back and grab that curriculum and go to the kindergarten standards. That's where they were. But when it comes to evaluation time, they're like, the kids should be, I was like, the kids should be doing what? I see them once a week. So when I look at the standards across the states, and I do quite often, because, that's just kind of what I'm into. It's all over the place. NAFME pushes these standards down, but they're very general, even though they've revised them in 2014, and they're a lot easier to read. They really are. And the states have the choice to adopt them or not. The states who don't adopt them and don't have a curriculum writing team that constantly revisits, and the curriculum writing team in Baltimore City were teachers. They were teachers with the programs that were actually flourishing, or at least a standard that nobody else was at. And those teachers wrote the standards, and those teachers took it from the state, the national standards, and we backwards mapped it to the deficits. So one year we all decided that the first unit everybody needed to teach was rhythm. Why? Babies can't clap on beat. Babies can't read rhythms, blah, blah, blah. It paired with the math deficit of not being able to understand fractions and not having PE, but once for a quarter, and then they don't have it ever again in middle school and stuff like that. It's all kinds of craziness happening in some of these districts. And that all affects like your product. So when it comes to state standards, I think the issue is people don't know how to use them. They're antiquated. Directors don't know what they are. Their college band director ain't never seen a standard. And don't know what it is like to actually have to focus on that instead of, music that they want to play. And, it just continues this continuous ball of programs that can have varying outcomes, good or bad. So I have a question. So we got the standard thing. And we always hear this question about when ensemble. Oh, go ahead. You gonna say?
I was gonna say before you, because we about to leave standards. I was gonna say, that's something that they should teach in college as well, like how to use the standards to write your lesson plan. Because some people might take it and run with it, but if they're never exposed to it, they don't, they may not know. So yeah, if you writing that, getting your master's in that, you should like make a class out of it or present it at like a convention.
I do, but people don't come.
Oh, okay.
College, just push it back a little quick to the college thing. They don't join the state organizations at the college level, and they don't go to the state conferences. And so there are clinics that, like you're saying, that happen that people like me do every year. And there's a certain group of people we don't see at them often. And they look like us often because there is sometimes some racism that they don't want to deal with and the microaggressions. I completely get it. But it also is worth it for our kids, like, because whether you agree with what they push down the pipe or not, when you don't vote, when you don't attend things, they make decisions without you. And it's hard to make a decision when you're in the room. So I studied it because I was exposed to it in college. But if you're not exposed to it in college, you don't even know, like you said, and then it just one begots the next. So joining the organizations on the high college level should be part of your music education experience. It is for my UMBC students. They all went, mandatory. They all had to go. Just saying.
Now, what conference are you speaking of, Krystal?
I've done my state. I've done North Carolina.
Okay.
I've done DeKalb counties. I've done about 10, probably more like 15 school districts at this point, where I talk about standards, curriculum writing, 21st century practices that come down the pipe. But
those sound awesome. No, because I'm asking because I've never thought of going to like another state. Like I've, Georgia, Louisiana. I've never been to Louisiana, and I was always curious to know how that went. But okay, so Maryland, the state of Maryland has its own music educators. Okay.
Well, most of the states have a MEA, something like it.
Right.
But the music education majors at most HBCUs do not join it until they're in a job where they might be sinking because they don't know, and then or their district pays for them to go, or they give everybody a day off, but you have to go. Like it's because it's now mandatory, but by then it's kind of too late. You're on fire. You're in the fire. So I don't know. That's the spiel. So now we know, like, teachers kind of, it can vary at the college. Like I felt like I got well prepared. But that's just me. That's not everybody. I put my degree up against a lot. People look like me and people who don't. But that kind of gives us a segue. If we got now people who aren't really, really getting what they need to be the best educator, and their band reflects that, are we judging them fairly? Is it that director's fault at this point? Are we judging them fairly? I don't know what y'all think.
Can you repeat that question?
Are we judging band directors fairly when it comes to how their program sounds, good or bad? Like if that group sound bad, because I see the internet trolls, a clip get posted and the comments fly from, band heads, band fans, band directors, band groupies. They slaw. They'll say it about a 2-year-old. The band world is critical. Are they being judged fairly?
Every situation is different. It depends on the director and how much they're doing for their program. Let's start with being a band director is not easy. It's not an easy gig. And you have to analyze how they treat their program. Now, if they're going around acting like it's easy, if the type of person that likes to wave their arms in front of a band because of the notoriety, because it looks good, and yeah, I'm judging you. But if you're the type of band director that is doing everything they can to improve their band program in different ways, and there's nothing wrong with like Battle of the Bands or anything. I enjoy them, but like going to different events, like going to contests that different amusement parks, or going to festival, making sure your kids. Well, in the state of Maryland, we have Solo Ensemble Festival. And my high school band director, he used to pair us up and or give us a solo, duet, trio, whatever, and be on each instrument. Say, you're going, do this, do that. He will make us go. If you're doing things on that aspect, no matter how big or how small your program is, then it's safe to say, not the judge. It depends on the situation. It's very hard to I've become more wiser, and it's hard to, and I was very critical of band directors. I still am. But being that I'm not one, I can't be too critical because it's not easy. It also depends on the culture of the state or the region that you come from, what they require. Like Anshel said, some states some districts make you go to festivals, some districts don't. If you don't have to go, people don't go. Also, it depends on your character as a band director. Like, what is your goal? Are you trying to make sure your students play at the best level they can, or are you trying to show off so you can be on somebody's college staff? It depends on the intent of the person on the podium, and that's all I got to say.
Ooh, intent.
Yeah, I concur.
I was gonna say, it's like she said, depending on where you are, where you are in the school year, whether it's the director's fault or not. Any competent director won't be posting something of his group not ready anyway. Those will be coming from other people. So you have to know who's posting these things too, and what is their reasoning behind posting them. Are they trying to, anyway. But because nobody knows what goes on in our programs, blood, sweat, and tears, or nothing, when we come out, it doesn't even matter what happened in there. They don't know. They just wanted to sound, like you worked on something. So that's what I think. But I think it definitely depends on the part of the school year. But I do have to say that directors do have a huge responsibility on what the program sounds like, even if they rebel, because all bands rebel and do the opposite of what their directors tell them to do sometimes. Sometimes it works out for both, sometimes it doesn't. But, you just have to know your group too.
What's crazy is I was thinking about the time of year, and people used to ask the band to play when I was in the city, like in July, August. School ain't even back yet. Like, but we need a band to play. How long? An hour. I said, they've been sitting at home on their butt. And I know some people do year-round band camps and stuff. And the reason I started doing like a year-round kind of summer program, because we were getting the requests, and it was a good opportunity for exposure, but they needed instruction constantly because we have this big deficit in my former district. It's like, there's no way that they can play an hour because they were beginners this year. They went home in the end of June. You're saying like, okay, can I see the band? All my seniors graduated. So really, I got a bunch of babies who have only been playing sometimes 1 year, 0.5 months. And no, but then you get forced. And that's the sad thing. Like, you get administrators that force the group out. The band director don't want to do it. Like, they like, no, like my first performance every year at my former high school was at the third week of school with 50% of the band beginners. Every year, non-negotiable, they have to play in front of the school for the senior inaugural. They have to play, and the music is prescribed. Like, I couldn't even choose the music because it's ceremonial. So it was like, we need this Star Spangled Banner, we need this. And the school song is in 6/8. It's to those endearing young charms. For a beginner, thank God I can arrange. And them babies would be playing the roots of the chord, like, while the more experienced kids can play over it. But everybody doesn't know how to arrange. Like, that's not even a college class for most. Like, orchestration, but not really the way that you might need to do it like a Cybil learned how to do it. And so, and people will be like, man. And then one year I got last names L through Z dumped in band. Freshman last names L through Z. It was a huge band, 180 kids almost, but not a reading music skill. And now they have to play in 3 weeks. And they all have to play because that was kind of the demand set. And I'm like, and I kind of kicked and fussed about, like, you can't do this. Like, this is not how it works. You can't put last names L through Z here. Like, because you're trying to fill up a schedule. And that first performance was a shit show. It was terrible. It was terrible. And the principal then afterwards came to me. She said, that was all the students in the class? I said, yes. Like, and you can tell babies not to play, like, you know, like the old school directors, like, don't play, you play. But you know what? A kid who actually is enjoying themselves and like the culture and environment, they're gonna play. Good or bad. If they like it, which is, you know, great. But if someone judged me off of those performances, you'd be like, she sucks. And I know that's the case for a lot of people. But then there's also the other thing that Lauren's talking about, those people who wave their hands around. They were band staff, made band staff their sophomore year in college. I'm sorry, y'all. Whatever. As a music education major, you are on the band staff doing what? Passing out water? Because you don't know nothing. Like, I'm sorry, unless you came from a very strong high school program, very strong. You were taking lessons and all of that. You don't know nothing. It's great experience to see the flow of how things work. But I see them conducting the college band, imitating what they see. Someone pulling planes down. And then I see them in front of a group, their first group. And that's what they're doing in front of a bunch of middle schoolers. The middle schoolers ain't following none of that. Or they're giving that energy back, but it sounds like shit. Because they're so bent on the look of a good band without actually the work of a good band. That's my spiel. And so, yes, sometimes judged unfairly, especially when people got phones and they could just clip real quick, hit your man. I'm like, that's why I love it when teachers go live during their class. Showman Miller is one of them. He goes live during class, and then you see what it takes to get babies A to Z. And his groups sound good. And you hear that even if you hear the group not do something well, when they come back, like when you hear the group and they did something not well, you heard him address it in class and you were like, that ain't his fault. Y'all just not listening. So that's what I think. I think it could be either or, but we got a lot of misdirected directors. Misdirected directors.
That's a topic for another show. You know. Ooh. That. Write it down.
Write it down. Make it plain.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So Cybil says she'll be right back. I guess we can get this party jumping. We're almost done. Is having a good wind ensemble an indicator of a successful program? And that could go for elementary, middle, high, or college. Like, I hear a lot of people, this is the age-old debate. Got to have a wind ensemble to be comprehensive. Like, if you don't have a wind ensemble, can you actually have a good program?
Oh.
I think you muted or you
muted.
I was gonna say I couldn't tell if you guys were muted, so I didn't know if one of y'all were gonna speak.
Oh, but, no, you got the mic.
I was gonna say because when I read that question, I was thinking I wouldn't say so, because you don't know what stage that program is in. So, for instance, that's something you would grow towards. You can't just be a first year bander and say, oh, I need to have a wind ensemble, but you don't have wind ensemble level kids yet, So I think it depends on how long you've been in that at that program, how long you've been a director, because you get a comprehensive band program. To me, what I've always thought was that we provided opportunities for kids to do different things, but all and still learned how to play music. I never had a wind ensemble at one of the high schools I taught at, but my program was comprehensive because all students, whether they were going to be music majors or not, knew how to read music. They knew the ins and outs of their instruments. They knew different genres. They knew how to. I used to make them because I just wanted them to be able to do it. How to write music. Now I don't say they didn't know how to arrange it, but they knew how to draw a quarter note and eighth note. They knew like theory, basic theory, not the in-depth theory. Because when I would get into it a little bit, they start looking at me like, what? So not the deep theory, but just basic theory. But that's something you can grow towards. Like if a band director has been there for 12 years, yeah, maybe they should have a wind ensemble by then, But I don't think having a wind ensemble constitutes a successful program, because you still can be successful, with, I think that's just something you grow into. That's like if I have a house, okay, I have a house, yay. But it's still a home, even though I don't have a deck on the back or a pool in the yard, or I don't have a flower bed out front. It's still I still have a home. And I think that's the same thing with your band program. If you're servicing those students as you should, it's a successful band program.
I think you hit on something that is probably more the bigger problem than people having a concert band. It's not having diversity of repertoire. Like you can have, like, just to be honest, in most HBCUs, we don't do wind ensemble, we don't do concert band to the spring. There are not a lot of HBCUs that do year-round concerts band. Not a lot, because of staffing, because of the demand of the marching band schedule, whatever, and not coming against it. But there's so much music. There's just so much music you can cover in an ensemble. And it doesn't necessarily have to be concert band, but if you're not going to do it, and but I don't know how you cannot do it in a middle school or high school where MPAs come up, because that state list is concert literature. But you should be at least playing some music that has some musical depth, where you can pull those skills, because it is really about the skill. You are right, Ms. Davis. It is about the skill. And stereotypically, but has some truth. Concert band does shape some different types of skills. You can shape them type of skills in marching band, but the problem is often people don't. It's not that you can't, just don't. And then that gives that stigma. There's that stigma that, wind band, that's white people band. Like, what? When I ain't doing that. Kids ain't doing that. I taught in the innerest of city of Baltimore City. Like, when y'all watch The Wire, I was driving through it to work. So if I could get those kids who aren't exposed to a lot of things with cultural depth beyond their block to love all types of music, you just not doing the work. You're not researching the new composers that come out. You're not going to the state conferences. You're not doing the work and you might not even know how to teach it in an engaging way. You have a stigma about it, and you put that stigma on your students, and then you throw your hands up and say they hate it, when really you control how that's taught. With all that fervor and fire you did with Industry Baby, you didn't put that same fervor and fire into Inferno or Encanto, because you didn't respect it the same. You didn't respect it, and your kids fed off of that. To me, often, I've never taught anywhere where I couldn't get the kids to like something that they wasn't exposed to. it takes a lot of work. You got to find your niches. You got to find out what type of songs they like. But once you find it, they'll play a grade 5 and only been playing 6 weeks. If they like it, they'll figure it out. They'll go shed on it because they're like, I like this. This is cool. My kids like John Mackey. I was like, why y'all so angry? Because they liked it, but it was win literature. And then I had one group that liked music that told stories. They thought it was like story time on the carpet. There's like, can you read the program notes? This looks interesting. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're going to have story time in the band room. Everybody lay your instrument across your lap, and we're going to talk about what a pantheon is, because you seem to like this epic music. Let's talk about pantheon. So when it comes to, no, I don't think it's an indicator of success, but it is an indicator of your knowledge of something that may not be part of the normal culture of where you are in some cases.
I would like to answer this question. It's a loaded question because it goes back into what I was saying about students not being exposed to the different fields of music. It also goes into bias and basically saying that wind ensemble is end all be all. I think if you were to ask older band directors, regardless of their racial background or ethnic background, they would say yes. Now, and this also goes back into the 21st century education question. Now, you really don't. It's good to have a wind ensemble. That's where you teach your basics, but you can also teach your basics in marching band. You can teach your basics in jazz band. You can teach your basics in orchestra, in the guitar ensemble, and brass ensemble, woodwind ensemble. You know, having just a wind ensemble is just as one track as just having a marching band. So I think what educators need to do is try to expose their students to different types of groups in order to make their program successful. Like I said, my high school band director for solo ensemble, he made us, and we weren't a small band program. We were the marching band. We were 160 people when I was in high school. We were like a college program. So, he made us get into do solos, do duets, do trios, just to show what small ensembles look like. We also had a jazz band program. They went to Africa with City College, with another high school here in the Baltimore area. So I think having just wind ensemble I used to think it was an indicator of program success, but also it could be very elitist to think that, is that could be dangerous, because you could look at somebody else's program like, oh, their wind ensemble is terrible. They don't have a wind ensemble, but they can have a slamming, brass ensemble. They can have a good marching band program, but know all the basics of music theory, knowing how R&B fits into certain song selections, how jazz certain fits in other song selections. I think marching band, it taught me about actual music groups like Earth, Wind and Fire. Like, I delve more into Stevie Wonder because of marching band. Different artists, like it put me down this rabbit hole of, oh my God, this music is like genius, is good, So as wind ensemble is very interesting. I love wind ensemble. It just has to mean something. I spoke recently to somebody about this in their office, and I agree with them. Like, it has to mean something, because, we can't, what do I want to say? There's some people that don't know how to choose repertoire. So it makes their wind ensemble less interesting. Like, it's very, ABA form, we're going to have the fast, exciting theme, and then we're going to have the slow part, lyrical part, and then go back to the fast lyrical theme. Wind ensemble music, if you take advantage of the composers now, the latest wind ensemble music, it would make your program interesting. The grade twos of now, the grade twos and grade threes of now are not the grade twos and grade threes from what we played growing up. So I think if your repertoire is good, if you teach the basics if you teach your scales and your arpeggios, all the basics of playing within whatever group, that's an indicator of success. So, yeah.
Oh, I just want to say something. Yeah, I misunderstood what you were referencing when you said wind ensemble, because down here, the wind ensemble is like your third band or your top band. So we have concert band, symphonic band, and then wind ensemble. So that's why I said, if you don't have a wind ensemble, of course that doesn't mean your program isn't. But of course you need to have your concert. You have to have a concert band. You can't do marching band all year round. So let me just say that, because I completely misunderstood that. I thought, like for us, the wind ensemble is like the elite band. They play like grade 5 and 6 music, whereas our symphonic bands will play like the 3s and 4s, and then our concert band. So you definitely need to have at least a concert band. You can't do marching band year round. So yes, a concert band and a marching band is an indicator of a comprehensive band program. Because I misunderstood that, y'all. I'm sorry.
And I think that as far as marching band, you can teach, the elements of music, the fundamentals and things like that. But having that concert band setting, as I'm preaching to the choir, eliminating all the physical aspects, thinking about marching left, right, while trying to think about having all of that out of the way and isolating, being seated, it gives them, more time to think about what they're doing. So in that fall, when marching band rolls around, that same group, that's where you start hearing, that difference in the marching band. So yeah, concert band is it an indicator? I think it should be. I think everybody should be pushing to at least eventually have that ensemble. You might not have the numbers at your school, but you still should have like a small ensemble or something where the kids are being forced to listen to one another.
I was gonna tag on to that.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I wanted to say something else. A lot of programs, they use each ensemble, they have their purpose. Like marching band, it's a big recruitment tool. So, how we do in band, I count the number of tubas. It's like, oh my God, they got 20 tubas, their band is big. Just like that's an indication of success to a lot of people. Like, how many tubas do they have? Oh shoot. So yeah, that is a good tool for recruitment. But if you make your students excited enough about music, then that could trickle over into your wind ensemble, your concert band program, your symphonic band programs. And it depends on how you mold your students. And if they're loyal enough, they will ride with you through wind ensemble. I think it's the coolest thing, just seeing classmates and seeing kids love it so much. Is like, yeah, they're in love with their band director, so they'll do anything for them. So I think each ensemble has their purpose. Yeah, marching band is the most visible ensemble. I think this is a question because there are certain ensembles that are more visible than the others, and we need to find a way to make wind ensemble more visible. So to show that program is well-rounded. That's all I had to say.
And I was going to say too, that's one thing Mr. Taylor, I know at Southern University, is doing. He wants to showcase the concert bands more, because they're known for marching band, but he's like, people think they don't have a concert band. And we always had a concert band or a symphonic band in the spring, because that's when I kind of met the guys that were in marching band, because I was like, oh, you're in the band? Because, I didn't get in that first year. And so I got to meet them, in concert band. And I was going to say, that's one of the things he's trying to shed light more on, the wind ensemble. And they actually have two bands now. They have the wind ensemble, and then there's a symphonic band. So they have two groups, which I think was, pretty awesome, because when I was there, we only had that one. And it was usually the music majors in the concert band, and then the kids that weren't music majors but played very well were in the concert band, because Mr. Knighton, he didn't want, anything that didn't sound well in his group. But I was going to say, there's a comment about
yeah, I was about to read it.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to kind of mention it, but I didn't know if we had time.
Yeah, I was gonna read it, because when I saw it, I said, "Oh, this is kind of, this is good." One, thank you for putting the question in the chat, Daryl. What about cultures? The question is, what about cultures like New Orleans, where the time don't permit fall football season and spring Mardi Gras that don't sum up the program, just only so much time in the day? And I feel that on a flip side, we're in the South North. Sorry, y'all. Maryland is a southern state. You can not own us or not.
We are mid-Atlantic.
We by classification during that war, they belong to the people with the other flag. But anyway, it gets cold. So I don't know why people think that marching band is gonna be a big deal up here. Have you ever been in a parade in the snow? I had a middle school marching band, and them babies, it snowed, and it was a rain or shine parade, but rain or shine, rain is cold, frozen, is snow. And it snowed on them babies. And I said, I never do this shit again. Like, all my drum heads popped. And I'm saying that to say, how can you expect up here that marching band is ever going to be a real big thing when in some years, once it hits mid-October, it's cold, and even further up, or if it January, out of the question. And it's still cold. Like, I'm in my basement with like zipped up, because we don't really know what spring is yet here. And so, like, people, like, even the kids in my high school, like, when's marching band starting up? Like, it's still raining every other day, and it's cold rain, like this sick weather. My grandma say this pneumonia weather. But so it makes sense for concert band to be like a big deal, being inside where it's warm. Or basketball is huge here, having pep bands, and pep bands are not often, you got those size limitations, so it just doesn't even make sense logistically. And I look at Louisiana like that. And I had to learn this. You've got a cultural thing. You got Mardi Gras, and that's a big fundraiser. That's a big deal. And I had to learn this. So if it doesn't make sense to do, you might not be able to do it as your main ingredient. Like, if it doesn't make sense. And I think sometimes people think that I like, oh, you love concert band. No, it's just a regional thing. Like, my kids are not ever going outside again in a January. I won't do it to me, and I won't do it to them. You know what it's like to get your lips stuck to the mouthpiece? If you don't come up here talking about that, man. Y'all don't have a marching band culture. What? Come on up. Come up in January, and I'll show you why.
Well, go ahead, Krystal. Now, I was gonna say, with the kids and with the Mardi Gras, and because for me, I used to use my concert repertoire to push or determine what we were gonna do in the fall. Like, I built my band through concert season, and they couldn't be in marching band if they weren't in band in the spring. So if your concert band music is here, marching band music is here. If they can play this is not going to be an issue. So I feel like, yeah, they should be pushing that concert music because that will indeed improve their marching bands. Those kids will eat that marching band music up if they can play grade 4 and 5 music. And so that's what they need to be focusing on in class, because they gonna play the marching band music because they want to play it. Make them play that concert repertoire in class, because they're gonna learn those skills, and that it's gonna make them grow up here. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I thought I was doing when I was like, y'all gonna learn this music and da da da. But actually, I gave my kids. We had I gave them a motive, because in Columbus at the time, there were only 2 show style bands in the whole city. And word would get to my kids that their friends, band directors, were saying, "Oh, those kids can't read music. All they know how to do is dance on the field." And I said, "Oh, really? That's what they're saying?" And I knew that wasn't true, because everything we had besides the fight song was on a sheet of music. And so I said, "Well, guys, when we go to festival, we're on the same playing stage. And if we score just as well or better than them, they can't say that y'all can't read." And I mean, those kids were fired up, and they really pushed themselves. And I was just excited for them because they wanted it. They didn't want people to be saying stuff like that because they knew that wasn't true. But we all know why they were saying it, And so we did prove them wrong. Yeah, those kids could read. They read very well, if not better than y'all bands. But I'm gonna leave that.
So, Michelle, I have a question for you, and this goes into, I think, is Daryl's question. So, the question seems like the bands in New Orleans and Louisiana, y'all don't have time to do fall band in the fall and prepare for Mardi Gras and concert band, which means something has to give. It gives the impression that something has to give, which may be why, more marching band is done, maybe less concert band is done. I don't know what the culture is down there. So I'm asking you, how do you deal with that schedule?
I'm sorry. I was talking to my mama.
Look, Happy Mother's Day is a Black mama moment.
I was just gonna say they have to make the time, because at the time I taught in Louisiana, we did Mardi Gras, and we played our concert music in class. And I am a stickler about using a method book. I know some directors will throw the method book to the side, but for me, I use that method book because it helps gear me to make sure I've covered all the things that my kids need to learn on that level. And so I would do my method book exercises. I would give those students the concert music, and then the marching band music was so easy. They would learn it because their concert music was so much harder. And that's what I thought was supposed to happen. Like, you build them through their concert repertoire, because they'll eat that marching band music up. It'll be nothing. And they can learn it. And then too, if you're working on fundamentals and making them sound great in class, you don't have to practice. They already sound good. So no matter what they play, they're gonna sound good because you built them up on the fundamentals in the classroom. You can't teach that all through just marching band music all year round. I'm sorry. You cannot.
Right. And I asked that question because a lot of it seems like the armchair.
I'm sorry, I just got fired up. Y'all never seen
No, it's fine.
I love it. Keep it coming.
No, they make it seem like, oh, we can't do concert band because we gotta prepare for Mardi Gras. Like,
it's
they make it. Yeah, and I'm like, well, why not?
Right.
You were like, when I was in high school, we had to go to we went to Myrtle Beach, and we did a parade, and we did contests in concert band. So I didn't understand, that's why I asked. I said, they kind of make it seem like, we have to, that doesn't exist here. So, we just do marching band year round, and I know it's a misconception because these are from the band fans. These aren't from the directors who are actually over the bands, that's coming from the band fans. Like, when don't stop, what we got Mardi Gras dude, then we had this battle band, and we got this we got this gym battle and this, that, and the third. I just had to ask, is it like, do y'all really not have the time to do concert band, or are they quote unquote capping? So
I love this conversation though, because the regional thing is something so that just drives so much misconception between like districts, states, cities within the state, and that question comes up a lot, like, why y'all slawing this and why y'all slawing that, when really it's just not enough time sometimes to be exposed fairly to all of the above comprehensively. Like, it's just not enough time. And I had to, with my own program, make a decision that I was going to do concert band rehearsal with at least not nearly like performance wise, like I see in New Orleans, like as far as the demand, but the demand was still more than everywhere else. And I had to just put my feet in the ground and say, y'all have concert band every Wednesday after school. And if you don't show up to concert band on Wednesday after school, don't ask me. You better not show your face Thursday for marching band after school, and don't even come to the game. And a lot of people, like, it's hard to stick your foot in the ground because somebody's going to test you. They're going to test you. And then you have to make an example of that person. And you
Am I froze?
You moving.
Okay.
I think it might be Krystal.
And Lauren, this look like they froze.
Wow, okay.
our power went out. Like,
oh wow.
What? See, that's the devil. That's the whole devil. The power went out on me. I was like, what is this nonsense? So I quickly jumped on my phone. I'm good. Dwight's like, the hotspot, it may take, we good. But sometimes you just gotta stick your damn foot in the ground and say, so you signed up for band. This is what band look like sometimes. That's not saying that you might be able to do it every day of the week. Sometimes you gotta tell babies to come before the school day start. I've had many a day like, you gotta come here at 7 because we have this football game Friday, but then we have parent night. And parent night is the jazz band. And you're a marching band, but you're in a jazz band. So guess what? We gotta rehearse both. But I say do what makes sense. Like, you do what makes sense. If it makes sense without burning yourself out, which is a whole nother topic we're gonna hit about work-life balance. Like, you can't be all things all the time. Like, that doesn't make sense. But sometimes proper preparation promotes a proficient performance. I'm just gonna say, yeah. Hey, Justin.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, welcome. Thank you for coming on, Justin. We cut up the last time we were together, so I expect you to cut up some more.
Yes, I do, because I wanted to touch on this Mardi Gras thing, because we wholeheartedly feel out here in New Orleans. Well, I'm in Vegas right now, but in New Orleans, that Louisiana and New Orleans, two totally different things. They are. I mean, can I spill about what it is? Like, out of town band, we feel like we the mecca band, and just we have facts to prove why we do what we do. So let's say a band from like Lake Charles or something like that. When they come to Mardi Gras, 9 times out of 10 they doing the Rudy Poo parades. They're doing like they're not doing Bacchus, Nam Top, and Orpheus back to back. They may do like a morning parade, or they may do a little Metairie parade or something like that. Versus all the mainstream parades, you back to back, and your money depends on this parade or this parade schedule. why you may, I think Lauren said they heard they don't have concert band in New Orleans or they don't do concert band. Sometimes it is not an excuse. Sometimes it just literally is in this New Orleans band schedule. Where are you going to fit it in at? And like I had a band director like Wilbur Rollins, he's going to fit it in there. It may not be broadcast to the world like y'all know. We may be doing it in the band class, or we may be doing it like 10 minutes before band practice start. But like Krystal, how you were saying, like you tell a kid if you don't come to marching band on a Wednesday, concert on a Wednesday, don't come to band on a Thursday. Let's just say something like that in New Orleans. You won't have a band. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't have a band in New Orleans, you don't have a job. You know, it just point blank, this is the culture is down here. And one thing that we're gonna start, I'm gonna start putting a light on down here in New Orleans is that band directors to keep band interested, and I'm critical to some band directors like how y'all was saying. When I see your band, I'm a judge it. I know band directors a hard thing. I'm like, yeah, they suck, and they start with the band director. So I don't know what the administration may be. Sometimes you can't judge a band first because they may have some internal things going on up in there that you really pretty much can't judge of. But down here, Class Got Brass is becoming big. Like I don't know if y'all ever seen that competition. There's a brass band competition. So I'm starting to think that band directors can find other ways and other forms of music to implement in their program besides just concert. You know what I'm saying? Jazz is a whole thing in itself. Like I feel like sometimes like we need to start promoting because that's New Orleans. I can make more money on my trombone than some people can make in their whole career on Bourbon Street, everyday gigging. You know what I'm saying? So like you tell a band director if they're not doing concert, band, all y'all focus on is marching band when we could give them a different form. So just to give a spill or just to answer that question, why it may look like that in New Orleans sometimes, and I ain't making an excuse for some band directors, they just be tripping, they don't care. But it's hard to fit it in within like your school, depending on you to play at the graduation. You better take this end of the year trip to out of town somewhere, or you may not have a band. You're not gonna do Mardi Gras, you're really not gonna have a job. So, and you're not doing football season, where is the time? So they fit it in most cases, but sometimes it's just not broadcast the same time as like in Texas, you gotta go to festival as a thing, or like, you might not have a job. So that's just to get my spiel about like to get a clear understanding of how some New Orleans bands operate or how it may look outside looking in that we don't do concerts. Some band directors do it. It's just not like things that a priority. It just looks that way. But sometimes they fit it in within the schedule. Sometimes they just don't have time to like bolster it. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. But yeah, any questions on that? But from a New Orleans side standpoint of it. I see Josh in the comments.
Yeah.
Hello?
One thing I wanted to say was I understand what you meant when you said New Orleans and Louisiana are two different things. I'm from Baltimore. Baltimore's not Maryland. Like Baltimoreans say that all the time. Like I get it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know. I didn't know if when I was asking my questions, I didn't know if that was towards the New Orleans audience or it was for Louisiana, which is why I said that. But when you said that, yeah,
it's not even, and it's like we have Ellie Mier in New Orleans. I mean, in Louisiana, and it's something that I like. I often hear times some band directors talk about having like a music superintendent for the whole state. Like, you know what I'm saying? It would be great, but whoever that person is, they need to come from us to understand that if you don't do Mardi Gras, you know what I'm saying? So can we create a curriculum geared towards what we do? And I think sometimes when we stop doing what we do and try to do what they do, I get concert, it sounds good, and it does help bands become better, but don't lose yourself in trying to do what they do. That's just my message from a kid that band saved my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I do band 24/7, 365. You know what I'm saying? And I see it from every aspect. Like, yeah, Krystal, I set up on another band, they trash. But you probably take two of them kids out your band and I read the hell out of everybody in our bands out here. You know what I'm saying? It just happens to be that way, but our culture is just different. So whatever you do in your area, do that well. And I don't shun under places. You know what I'm saying? So just understand different cultures, but do whatever it takes to keep your band alive. Because band, I always say, is dying in certain places. And I'm saying it's dying where I'm from, you know what I'm saying? Which this past year has gave me a little hope because band's on another level down here in New Orleans now. You seeing the middle school kids wanting more now. Like when I never marched in a band that wasn't 150 or no level, 150 kids, even from middle school to high school. and New Orleans All-Star Band is never, you know what I'm saying? So now I'm starting to see the fire becoming more in the little kids' lives. So you think I'm about to like tell a kid, come to this concert camp, you know what I'm saying, and do this from 8 in the morning to 3 in the evening and not give him no type of marching band? You know what I'm saying?
What's wrong with exposing them to concert music? Because there are some good concert music pieces that kids would love to play.
I'm not. Oh, Winter Winds, my favorite concert piece. I'm not saying don't expose it to it.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying, oh hell no, that's crazy. I'm saying you need to find a way to expose
find a way, right?
By keeping them interested. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I know, for example, in Wilbur Rollins' band, if you didn't do concert, you didn't get your band jacket.
Now I was in school with Wilbur, so I know Mr. Rollins and his brother.
Yeah.
I know he's one of the few that really do. You know, like what I was mentioning, you got to get it in there some kind of way because you don't want to do a disservice to your students. And so when you say that, I'm glad to hear that he does. But I should have known that because I've seen his groups. I mean, he's always had an outstanding band.
Exactly, and you know how everybody egotistic down here. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to bring up one band direct name where I just think I'm better, or like some stuff don't prove it. Like them kids that you're sending, what the beauty of this is, and like you know we talk about All-Star Band because that season coming, Krystal. You have to have an All-Star Band show. Like when you get in that room, people say All-Star Band is just loud and cranking this, that, and third. No, when you get that music, the first question we look at it, you know, band heads, we gonna say, ooh, we're gonna find that favorite measure we like. Okay, wait to get to that part. You know what I'm saying? But you down there, you went to Sunday school, you can't read this. What your band never do is now we know like if y'all really reading down here. So outside looking in, it may look like all we doing is overblowing and just marching band 20. But no, you have to. We know who the big dogs is in the room off of reading. If you can't read, sit down and move out the way when this person come here. So like it just may look like the outside looking. I'm gonna have to do a video on that or like something to like explain the culture of how the Mardi Gras may take. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I can say so much. I don't want to take this. But Krystal, I appreciate you for letting me on, man. Just give you a
no. Thank you, Justin. Thank you. You gave perspective, and that's what we need in this conversation is perspective. And I think for the most part, everybody was saying like at the end of the day, you need to just know how to pick music and choose music with skills in it that you could get what you need out of the kids. Like, you know, you got to pick music that will make them play better. Like, and that's possible to do in any type of ensemble. You can find music to make kids play better. And you can put another genre in any of these ensembles.
It's a teacher. Like when I found out Meek Mill, one of my favorite artists, Meek Mill intro to every one of his last 3 mixtapes, the ones that, hold on, wait a minute, y'all thought I was finished? I don't know the box requiem or something. I don't know what it is. It's something crazy. And my music teacher is suddenly I forget his name. I took a music class. He broke it down to us, and I was stuck. I used to hate concert music unless it was something from Mr. Overall. Like he make everything competitive. Like don't even sit in the middle and by the first. If you can go down about the third, it's gonna make you feel bad. Like it's just his way of making everything competitive to make it. So I don't say third. Granted, when he puts you on third, we're like, this may be some of the most important parts of this piece down here third. Let me play in these bottoms. So I blame everything on the director. So like as much flack as we give band directors, sometimes you have to like sit back and ask like, is this band director even creative? Is he coming here just for a check? Did he understand if this kid may have learned some type of music before he got here? And sometimes what's always worse is when a kid know that you bull crapping, or like my previous music teacher was better than you, you are bull crap creek. You know what I'm saying? Because I had my first band director, Ms. Asia Mohammed, Warren Easton. She taught me how to read music like crazy. So coming out of middle school, I was like, I can't be touched. I'm only watching for Sarah T. Reed or Joey Washington cover. So it's like y'all understand New Orleans band before the start. Oh, Mr. Wilbur. So I'm not. If you was a band director besides them, I can tell by the music how we warm up if you know what you're talking about or not. And that's the kind of kids you're getting from New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Well, from our aspect. So yeah, I like playing marching band music year round, but I do understand this old school tune or something that we play concert to warm up. It's crazy, you know what I'm saying? So I gotta go, Krystal. I definitely want to get this. I just had to let her know, like it may seem like that, but shit, it's a whole different ball game when it comes down to musicianship in New Orleans. So yeah, let's go, y'all. Nice talking to y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Justin. I think we got
next. But it's real interesting. Like ultimately the common ties are the band director and their skill level. Like their skill level. Whatever ensemble they teaching. If their skill level ain't up to snuff, then we know what happens from there. Hey Quan, hey good brother. How you doing?
Hey, hi family. How y'all doing this on this day? Happy Mother's Day, first of all. So hopefully y'all enjoying your day from that.
All right, we got 6 minutes. I'm gonna say that because my husband made me a Mother's Day dinner and it smelled good and I want to eat it.
I got you. So no, so I caught in the last bit, and I guess the question that I just have to ask all educators, and specifically to music educators that look like me, what is our standard going to be, regardless of your region, your area, your demographics, the socioeconomic status? What's our standard? And I think as we go, for example, if the plight is having a student for 4 years, we need to plan out those 4 years to ensure that we're introducing different genres and styles of music so that our student is well prepared for wherever they want to attend, whatever university or college. I think that's the plan and spiral curriculuming aspects that we need to begin asking ourselves first of all. So what is our standard? After we identify our standard, we need to implement that standard and honestly collaborate with other music directors, music educators, speak to those professors to see what do they see. What's the expectation for when you want a freshman to enter college? Where are they supposed to be? I think a lot of the times we speak about marching band because, of course, it's entertaining. But I'm gonna be honest, as a director myself, I'm starting to get anxiety with so much marching band. It's like an overload, especially when it comes to those even times when you have those pop-up performances that admin wants you to do randomly, so forth and so on. That gives you anxiety because you really just want to teach. I think everybody on this panel, at the end of the day, if we could tell our admin, shut up, let me do me, and I promise you, everybody gonna be straight, everybody will be fine. But the reality of it is, I don't knock gym battles, but if I know I have this beginner group of kids, then I need to focus on fundamentals more than emphasizing gym battles. Not knocking it. They had one this past weekend, but like it comes a time when, as a director, because you're kind of like a parent, you have to say, well, my child needs more vitamins. So they're not going to be coming out at this aspect. They need more concert. They need more sitting down and playing than focusing on hitting this line 8 to 5 than anything. And I think once you are able to stand on your heel for what your standard is as a director, I think everything is going to fall in to its proper place. I do agree with Justin. We need to be more creative on our ensembles, but concert band is just as important as it's all of the other ensembles. And honestly, they need to be exposed to much literature as possible. A rap daddy is cool, but real talk, I need you to sit down and play this piece and prepare for these auditions so that you won't be the one, like Justin was saying, well, what school and who your band director is? We don't want our kids to be like that. So that's just my 2 cents on it all. We need to set our standards at a high level and then keep pushing forward.
I love it. You gave me an idea. And one day I'm gonna have to settle on what I'm gonna actually go get my DMA in. Like one day. And I keep leaning towards there's never been a universal curriculum project for I almost want to say diverse populations, which is really all of America is a diverse population at this point. And in another 10 or 20 years, there won't be like these pockets of one group versus the next. Like it's on its way there. Like it's just the demographics of our country has changed a lot. And it's changing more and more. You start to see kids who look like us live in $1 million neighborhoods. I came from that type of area where we don't culturally get to bring what it is that we are to the table. We have to adopt the quote unquote dominant culture of that land, and vice versa. And I feel like at this point, what we really should be really working on, maybe this can happen through the HBCU Band Directors Association or whatever, is a curriculum overhaul that matches what it is that diverse populations in 21st century teaching looks like. It hasn't been done. It's been done in certain states. There's certain states making moves that are starting to have more diversity on their state list, more diversity in their ensemble types, more showcasing of diverse ensembles in their state conferences. But you said that kicker, admin, they just be wanting what they want. And I feel like if the curriculums started to come down where it said, okay, you need to leave space for this because they're teaching the standards that have been adopted by the district or whatever, or this state, then maybe we'll see some forward motion in well-rounded kids and programs that showcase what our students truly can do, which is anything. They can do anything. They can do anything, and we prepare them that way.
And honestly, Krystal, that should go even up to the collegiate level, because we all know
it should trickle down.
Yeah, because honestly, music theory is not diverse as what it could be. We still learn about Bach, Beethoven, Schumann, Schubert, and all them people, but we need to study the aspects of Miles Davis and other jazz composers as well. All of that should be a part of it. I mean, I think we're light years behind from where we should be, but I think amongst us, we need to honestly first say, it may be at an HBCU consortium to say, hey, we're going to set these particular standards. No matter, like I said, the socioeconomic status, this is what we're going to do. We're going to literally schedule these particular quarters. This is the method books that you recommend. Even from that point of view, like, we don't even really have a method book that speaks to us and our kids and the kids that we even, highlight. Of course, us in Texas, we highlight essential elements, so superior foundation for superior performance. It's kind of like the same ones, but we don't have ones that speak to our students and then the music that they can honestly relate to as well.
Agree with it all. And we got to know how to do it. Like, we are educated. Like, we're not from the times where we didn't have these resources at our fingertips. We, as a people, as a culture, some of these things we just now are using as excuses because it's outside of our comfort zone. Just being real, we are educated. We have our own. We've made our own, and we are sometimes 3 and 4 generation college students. So we can't say that we don't know no better. Last remarks, and I'm putting 30 seconds. 30 seconds. The last thing, and I won't say nothing but goodbye at the end.
Oh no! I just think awesome job, everybody that's following. Continue to support the show. You ladies are speaking nothing but facts, and even open up my eyes as a director, and just keep giving us the knowledge.
Happy Mother's Day to my mother, Angela Annette Green Haskins. I hope you enjoyed your chocolate covered strawberries.
I just want to say, I don't know if she's on here now. I didn't know she was here earlier, but Janae, happy Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to my mom, and again to you ladies. That's it. And thanks for everybody tuning in. Yay.
This Mother's Day hit different. My grandmother passed away less than a month ago, so happy Heavenly Mother's Day to both my mother Helena and my grandmother Addie, and happy Mother's Day to you ladies, especially all the pet moms. I have fur babies.
And I want to say thank you to you ladies for joining me on a Mother's Day. I know scheduling is, this is a big deal. It's a big event, big day for a lot of us as far as our families and our extended families and friends. So thank you for carving out the time to be with us, and the viewers too. Thank you for chiming in and giving your perspective. I'm glad to see some men chiming in. Make that normal. Like, it's a whole nother topic, but sometimes when I think they see Black women are going to do this. They don't necessarily know how to navigate that space. Like, it's a welcome space. Like, perspectives is what makes the world better. And thank you, Luke. Thank you, Talk That Talk. Tune in on Wednesdays. Talk That Talk. They have secondary sessions, I believe, on Mondays. And we will be back as well with another topic. We're going to probably talk about work-life balance, because I think the educators are fried right now. They starting to get to that end of burning both ends of the candle and done. And I think it's a good topic. So thank you for tuning in. And we got a off the cuff happening probably towards the end of the month, where hopefully we'll get more male perspectives on some things as well. So thank you for tuning in. Have a happy Mother's Day. God bless all the mothers out there, mother figures, and people who are, filling in those shoes as well. And all the heavenly mothers, that made us and still did the work before, going on to glory. So thank you, and see you next time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We be here.